got the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
You're in the doghouse with Rick Watson on Big Dog Sports Talk, presented by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Join us in the Family Fencing Studios and chime in on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. He's keeping cool with help from Little River Heating and Air, but this show is straight fire. And now, the big dog, Rick Watson.
Sorry, I was just grooving. Little jump around there. Good morning. How are you on a Thursday? Hope everybody's doing well wherever you might be. We're getting to the end of the week, aren't we? We're getting there. Hope everybody's work week is going as stably as possible. Boy, we got a banger again today. Coming up, Andy Bitter's going to join us a little early, around 6:45. And, you know, many times in the theatrical world, you can never count on the sequel being nearly as good as the original. But we're going to bank on that being the case today. First of all, fingers crossed technology. But coming up from 7 to 8, Marty Smith from ESPN and Coach Steve Ragsdale scheduled to join us. We ran through a practice session with Coach Rags, and he had everything working earlier this week. So hopefully all that will come together in hour number 2. And then Dwight Vick. I mean, my goodness gracious, that is wonderfully free value entertainment for you. It's going to be, hopefully everything works out. Little concern. This is the first show. Shows you how dry it's been. This is the first show we've done where it's actually been raining. It's raining a little bit outside here in Reiner, outside our family fencing studios. So hopefully that doesn't affect things. We'll just play it by ear, do the best we can. Keep in mind, if something bad happens with the technology, we'll reboot and we'll do the whole thing over again. So it should be a lot of fun today. And speaking of free value entertainment, remember, we always invite you to subscribe, like, and share everything that we do on the channel. Fourth and Goal Show will pop up tomorrow, brought to you by National Bank and Professional Door. That'll be tomorrow. Myself and Jermaine Farrell reviewing everything that happened last week and previewing week 5 of the high school football season. No sports and more this week. David Smith was feeling under the weather. He had a bunch of stuff going on too, so we're going to pick it back up next week. And then tomorrow, Will Stewart, I believe Wes Durham's good to go from Syracuse. He's broadcasting that game this weekend. And then Jen and Mike Ashley. So got a lot going on today and tomorrow to finish the week. And we're glad to have you with us wherever you might be. And remember our motto, if you get one person, if you're a subscriber and you get one person you know to subscribe, that you'll help us get to 1,000. We reached 500. It's awesome. But 1,000, getting 500 more will be the quintessential plateau where I can take a deep breath for a while. Yeah. So good stuff. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And again, hopefully technology works today. Thanks to Family Fencing, Jason Green and the gang. Get a free quote, 540-200-8294, familyfencingnrv.com. No mess. Locally owned, finance options available, free quotes. No matter the material, no matter the type of fencing you want, go see Family Fencing. Or call them and then go see them. Or just pop in. You don't mind the pop in. Thanks to Mark Hundley, McClellan Chiropractic Clinic, right off of Peppers Ferry Road in Christiansburg. Brand new, big, beautiful building. They sponsor our chat room. Jump in our chat room. We'd love to have you. Professional Door Incorporated in Dublin. Travis Williams and Company, been in business 38 years. They sponsor the text line at 540-391-0788. Right across from New River Community College, Route 100. Garage doors. Nobody does it better than they do. Nothing but garage doors. Awesome. Awesome what they do. I want to thank Pulaski County Sports Entertainment for all of their wonderful support, being the title sponsor of this program each and every day. It's awesome for me, being a Pulaski County native, to be able to talk about all the things that they have going on. Community collaboration, that's their backbone, but they're also, they have an eye for the future. They're out everywhere, all across the country, bringing business and events to Pulaski County. The Sportsplex is continuing to progress. They're staying on schedule, which is very difficult to do with a project that large, but Jonathan Sweet Company are very dedicated to that. They partnered with the Claytor Lake State Park. They're going to have the American Jet Sport Association Southern Summer Series event that's coming up. I mean, it's just so much stuff, and it's so cool. So we want to thank all of them up there for all of their support. Thanks to Larry Ramsey, National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of BDST. Been with them for 35 years. We're just about starting to filter out a little bit for the attorney, Ryan Pry, down at 701 West Main Street in Radford. His BDST fan question of the week. We've had about 60-some responses, and it was how many wins you think Virginia Tech ends up with in the ACC schedule. And it's around 4 overall, well, your overall record. So 4 to 5 games is what has won. I think the last time I checked, it was pretty close to being tied, 4 to 5. And finally, Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, Charles Lee and Company. You'll see the vans driving around. They will never try to overcharge you. They work with your budget. They just explain all the different options you have. And that gets more rare as things go on today, where people are not trying to take advantage of customers who need you. And I think that's the reason Charles created the business. He just got tired of things that he'd seen going around at other places he'd worked, and he wanted to do it the right way. So it's great. It's great. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Good morning in McClellan chat room. Thursday, second best day of the week besides Friday. Yeah, you climb the ladder, man, as you go, right? You get to Thursday and you kind of go, well, I still got a lot of stuff to do, but you're almost there. Almost there. Now, I work all weekend, so, but, it's broadcasting games. Does it really work? Yeah. We got volleyball tomorrow and Saturday at Radford. Had women's soccer last night, and it was an absolute deluge. It hadn't rained in so long, and teams got ready to come back out after halftime, and it just started pouring, and it just hit right before they lined up for the kickoff of the second half. No electricity was attached to it, which was great. It was awesome that there wasn't any threat of the game being delayed or anything like that. But, man, it was a heavy, heavy rain the entire second half. Kudos to those young ladies on both teams, Longwood and Radford. They played extremely hard, and they really didn't let up. I mean, they didn't have to, because the field had been so dry. You know how it is in your yard. I haven't mowed over 2 weeks. I mean, all you'd be mowing is dirt, brown grass. And the field looked great. You can't tell how dry it is by just looking at it, but it absorbed all that heavy rain, so there wasn't any puddles surging or anything like that. But, it was pretty heavy last night. And I think it rained most of the night. But it's raining a little bit here right now. So hopefully it won't cause any problems with our connectivity. So Andy Bitter, Marty and Rags, and then Dwight Vick. So we're going to have a lot of fun today on the program. We haven't talked much about baseball. We're in the final week of the Major League Baseball season. And we've had 2 amazing things happen that kind of fallen under the radar. I think they're worthy talking about, especially now that we're getting to the playoffs. You had Cal Raleigh, the catcher for the Mariners. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, this guy has just taken baseball by storm this year. He's the 4th American League player to hit 60 home runs. He's the Mariners catcher. And he's just kind of been consistent all year long. And I think back, I get a little upset because on my fantasy team, I had an opportunity there. He was sitting there. I needed a catcher. I didn't take him. But I'm just looking here. I want to get all the numbers. Cal Raleigh. He has 11 multi-home run games this season, tied with Aaron Judge in 2022 and Hank Greenberg in 1938 for the major league record. How about that? He still has 4 games left. The American League single season home run record is 62. That was Judge back in 2022. Just mind-blowing. And, sorry, Motor City Kitties, the Detroit Tigers led the American League Central for 175 days. Either they were in first or tied for first. The Guardians, terrible name. They still should be the Cleveland Indians, who were 15 and a half games out of first in early July. Last night took over first place, sending the Tigers to their 8th consecutive loss. Meanwhile, Cleveland's won 17 of 19. That's 2 amazing things happening in the American League as we head into the playoffs. Well, the Padres are in. We clinched. We won't win a game in the playoffs, but we're in. So you get through the long baseball season. It feels like the playoffs have been a reward since they expanded it. I used to be so old school on that, but now I get it. Cubs and Padres are in the wild card in the National League. The Mets and the Reds and the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are creeping back up in that thing. Yankees, Boston are likely going to be in. Then you have Detroit trying to hold off Houston. When I grew up, it was National League East, American League East, National League West, American League West. You had all the teams there. And your division winners were played in the championship series and in the World Series. Good morning, Three Rings. From NARS. N-A-R-Z. NARS. By the way, the Tech point spread has fallen by a point. So Vegas, interesting. 9.5, I think. It was 10.5, may have been 11 initially. It was 10.5 all week, and it's down to 9.5. I haven't checked it early this morning. Let's see here. There are a lot of good games this week, which is kind of nice. We haven't had a great week since the opening week of a lot of games, like a lot of really good college football games, but that's not the case at all this week. I mean, look at the intrigue we have. Florida State, Virginia tomorrow night. It's intriguing. I'm not going to say it's going to be a great game. I hope it is, and I hope it's a great atmosphere. Even the late game tomorrow night, TCU, Arizona State. It's still 9.5, Tech and NC State. But USC's got Illinois, Notre Dame, Arkansas. Of course, you got Alabama and Georgia. That's later on that evening. Ohio State's at Washington. LSU, Mississippi. Auburn, Texas A&M, Indiana, Iowa. I mean, there's a lot, a whole lot. Tennessee, Mississippi State, that'll be pretty cool. I'm interested in Liberty Old Dominion, right? ODU's heavily favored, by the way, to beat Liberty. But it's Oregon, Penn State. This is a great week of college football. And then Kentucky, South Carolina, which has some intrigue for different reasons. We'll get into that tomorrow with Jen. So, yeah, we actually have a really, really good week of high school football, college football stuff. It's always a good week in high school football. And Jermaine and I will break that down tomorrow. But we haven't had a lot of depth like that from the noon kicks to the nighttime like we have this weekend. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Of course, the Tech game's at 7. So it's good. Prometheus says all the Tech Sideline guys are predicting a high-scoring game. Both defenses are suspect. Yeah, I think that's probably the route I'm going to go. I haven't picked my final score yet, but I think it could be. Now, to your point, Prometheus, we haven't seen Virginia Tech's offense function in totality other than against, the glorified scrimmage that was last Saturday. So they have to show they can do it, absolutely. And going on the road and doing it for the first time in a true road game is going to be a real test. So I'm with you on that. But I have watched NC State 3 of their ball games so far, and I have not been impressed at all with their defense. Virginia did whatever they wanted. They were doing whatever they wanted late in the game to win the game, and then they threw the panic pick that didn't need to be thrown. They had no resistance. They got beat up front. And Tech's offensive line is a real struggle. They're hurt. They weren't that great when they were healthy, the starters. But NC State's defensive front can be pushed around. Prometheus has 34-17. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. First true road game can be difficult. But we'll see. I'm interested to see the one thing that, we've heard a lot of people in our professional door text line and correctly say it. It feels like just the credibility of the game plan is better now with Philip Montgomery, even though I'm not going to count Wofford. People were trying to say, hey, what'd you think what they did against Wofford? And I'm like, I didn't watch. I don't think anything they did against Wofford is other than gaining confidence and letting drones get into a rhythm. I don't think anything from Wofford carries over from a physical game play calling standpoint. Personnel groupings. I mean, it's Wofford. There's a reason you schedule games like that. And I'm not down in the Wofford kids, but I'm just saying I don't think you can say, oh, well, look what they did against Wofford. This might open things up. No. We forget that each game plan is different. Each grouping of plays, the script to start each game is different depending on the opponent and their personnel and what has been deemed from watching film. I mean, that's what it's all about, trying to figure all that stuff out. So for me, I want to see how Phil Montgomery schemes against a team that I feel like they probably have some inner confidence in that building. Over at Merriman, I think they probably feel like, yeah, you know what, we can do some things. But you're going to need Kyron Drones to really play well, I think, to outscore NC State, to Prometheus's point. I think they better stop the running game. That's what the Wolfpack hangs their hat on. And he's not an easy guy to tackle. And Tech has not been able to do that against actual opponents this year. So we'll see. We'll see. But I still don't think this is a slam dunk, just turn it on and see how many points Tech are going to lose by type of game, because I don't think NC State's good enough to deserve that respect. I think they're going to have to earn it. Do I think NC State's better than Tech right now? Yes, they are. But you got to go out and you got to get it done. That's why I'm really intrigued Friday night. Tomorrow night, I'm really intrigued. Good morning, Rodney. Really intrigued to see how UVA handles that game against the Noles. Florida State going on the road, much like Tech. This is the first road game for Florida State, and they haven't played anybody the last 2 weeks. Everything Florida State's gotten was because they beat Alabama, who probably was a little overrated because it's Alabama. Going into the season, they walked into a minefield. And Florida State got hot early, and they kept it going. Took a couple weeks off. They scored 130 points combined, right? In 2 games against Wofford type of team. So I'm not really sure where Florida State sits. We know they're good up front. I did notice that against Bama now. Defensively, they got a defensive line that gets out. They're deep too. They rotate 4 guys. I mean, they're very deep. That was impressive watching them up front against Alabama, because Alabama's offensive line is usually one of the stalwarts of every football team since Nick Saban, even Coach DeBoer since he got there. They didn't have much for those guys. So Virginia's going to have to block up front, but their line has looked pretty solid to me, Virginia, and they can run the ball. But I just hope there's a cool atmosphere. I hate that game's on Friday night because, I'm always going to be that guy. The one thing I am get off my lawn about, I wish Friday nights would just stay with high school football. But we know that's not reality. It hasn't been reality for many years with the TV contracts and the money. I get it. But, yeah, especially for us here, how much it means in Southwest Virginia. High school football, it's a bigger pocket of meaning, I think, than obviously it is in Northern Virginia. In the bigger cities, high school sports barely resonate like they do here. So for us, it's a little different. Like, I don't imagine high school football has got a big, loyal, rabid fan base down near Charlottesville. I mean, there's some good programs down there. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? And I say down there because every time I go to Charlottesville, go that direction, I'm going down Christiansburg Mountain. I know it's not down there. I get it. Everybody gives me a hard time. But, I'm saying when I go down the mountain, I'm going down somewhere. I'm going down the road. I know technically it's up and over. I get it. But anyway, thanks everybody for the feedback. In case there might be people here that didn't see, let me show you the T-shirts one more time. Got an amazing response. And there you go, from Top Shelf. There's what they're going to look like. We haven't got them printed yet. People were saying, hey, can I go ahead and get – no, I wish. I don't have them yet, but that's what we're going to go with right there. And that's really nice. So thanks to Brandon. I got to get with Brandon and figure out, how this is going to work going forward. But so Rodney, mention it again for me. I'd like to go start getting these produced. But they do a great job, and I love the way they look. And that T-shirt, by the way, is a quality shirt. We talked about that. I mentioned with Brandon. We didn't just put that on like a immediate, fold up, wash it one time, and it falls apart. That's going to be a quality T-shirt that you would get. It's going to be like a Fanatics quality T-shirt right there. Actually, it'd be better because Fanatics stuff is kind of cheap now. It's what happens when you become the only source for apparel, right? They just kind of get a little cheap on what they do. But there you go. There's our shirts. And we'll let you know when those become available and how you can purchase those. So very excited about that. Turned out great. So thanks to Brandon and everybody at Top Shelf. Good stuff. Drones can't check down. Yeah, he's had trouble doing that. He did it against Wofford, but he had all day to throw. All right. It's easy to do it when there's no pressure. Easy to do it. So, yeah, we're trying to figure out if that's something that can transfer over. That's the one thing. I don't do – the whole team thing is what it is. The reason the Wofford game was important, it allowed Philip Montgomery to come in and coach a game. He's been a head coach, so that's not new, but he's able to coach a game and have a team. Thank you, Prometheus. Appreciate that. To get his feet wet again, if you will. And so the rest of the staff now can get a little more acclimated to how he's going to do things. So from that standpoint, it was very important. And from Kyron Drones, he needed some confidence. He needed something to make him feel a little better, and maybe that'll do that. So I could see that being something that transfers. But they did throw a lot of balls over the top, but they felt like they could, and they had some success, obviously. But we'll see. We shall see. NC State allows a lot of room out there on the outside. I think Tech can hit some big plays in the football game. But they finally showed they could run a little bit against Wofford. They had not done that against the other three opponents. Can they line up and do it down in Raleigh? Because the only way you're going to win a road conference game is if you can run the football. And if they go down there and they're averaging under 3 yards a carry, at the end of the day, you're going to realize, well, that's one of the main reasons they lost. So we'll all wait and see how it plays out Saturday evening. But conference play changes everything. And it sounds like such a cliche. But even, for instance, at Radford in the Big South, you can have Eddie Biedenbach used to be the head coach of UNC Asheville, and they were a dominant program. And they would go maybe 3-11, 3-10 in the non-conference, right? Because he would always play very hard teams, and those were money games, and you'd build up money, your budget through those games. But then when you get in the conference play, they were totally different because everybody knows everybody, the coaches pretty much. Now, that'll become less of a reoccurring theme now with the NIL and with all the roster changing year in and year out. But back then, you knew personnel, you knew how coaches like to play, things of that nature. And it doesn't matter what kind of non-conference season you've had. When you play at home in conference, you have a big advantage. When you go on the road, it's the most difficult thing to do. Mike Jones, our former coach, said it's like getting a gold brick and putting it in your red flyer wagon. And I think that is an awesome, awesome analogy. You get a conference road win, bring out that shiny gold brick, set it in the wagon, and you just leave it there because it was earned. And it's the same thing, on the gridiron. If Virginia Tech can go on the road and win their ACC opener, they're going to have to earn it, and they will have earned it. And running the football is one of the ways that you can do that. So I do agree that it's going to be a higher scoring game. I just feel like it's going to be that way because I haven't been impressed with either defense. So I agree with the Tech Sideline guys about that. I don't know who they have winning. I guess they probably went with NC State. We'll talk to Will about that tomorrow. I'm always interested too. What's really cool they have at Tech Sideline is the fan poll too. Like, not only do you who thinks going to win, but the point spread. I think that's interesting. Kind of gives you a look inside the confidence level each week. 6-11, then 11 or more, something like that is what they do. It's really nice. So, we'll see. It's exciting. Big weekend. It's a big weekend. Feels like a big weekend. It feels like a big weekend of college football. We hadn't felt like a big weekend for a while. Good morning, Wayne. Our one premium member. By the way, you can sign up for things. You can read it up there now that we've got 500. Wayne found it. Appreciate that a whole lot, Wayne. Because he's got a green name now. At least I see a green name. Just a question and opinion. If I were to name ACC school and fans most like VT, I feel like it's NC State. Fans are loyal and team underachieves except for a few years. Yeah, they are loyal down there. That's true. Carter Finley is usually pretty packed out. And they get great student support like Tech as well. No, I think that's a good observation. I do. Yeah. I would say it's of a like type of fan base. I think the fan base that I've experienced that's most like Tech is Nebraska. When we were out there, it reminded me of Tech fans. But, I don't know much about Duke football. Didn't have a fan base until Elko got there. So, yeah, you throw them out. Yeah, you could go through team by team. I don't think Carolina football has the kind of fan base that you would think it would. Wake. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good observation. Good morning, Zach. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're just hoping that technology. We've had heavy rain here, and the first time we've had the program since it rained. And I realize that's how long it's been since it's rained. It's been, we've been on. This is week 6, 5 or 6, and it hadn't rained one morning. We've done the new show, but boy, it poured last night at soccer, and it was pouring this morning through the night. I heard it. Woke me up once. I love that sound. Yeah, the Nebraska fans were great. I mean, I don't know if anybody will ever get to experience going to a Nebraska game. I'm glad I did, thanks to BDST legal counsel Richie Davis. That's where I hung out with Aaron Andrews. I'll just show you my Aaron Andrews picks. The ones that are suitable for airing. Oh, no, that didn't happen. Best opposing fans I've ever been around, maybe for any sport, Nebraska. They were so complimentary. They'd lost, Tech beat them in the fourth quarter. Tyrod Taylor doing Tyrod Taylor things. And they were all dejected. They were ready, in a good way. And they were just we were walking around afterwards, and nobody had an ill word to say. They were just like, wow, we hope. All I kept hearing was, boy, we hope we can get our program like Coach Beamer has Virginia Tech. You have great players. It's awesome. I wish it could be that way everywhere. It's not, unfortunately. The over and under on the NC State Tech game is 50. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, there you go. 57 to 58.5. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. Yeah, I do, Chad Hyatt. Yeah, we were up at the CBI tournament many years ago. It was Javonte Greens, who's going in our Radford Hall of Fame, by the way. Get Javonte is going to be on this program coming up. Vermont basketball fans, that was the quarterfinals of that tournament, and it ended up being Woo. Woo is what his mom and his grandmother called him, so everybody calls him Woo, W-O-O. But Javonte, his last game, he was the best player by far on the floor. I think he went for a double-double, 20-something points, double-digit rebounds, blocking shots, just throw-down dunks. They beat us in the final few minutes. It was a close game because Vermont's got a great basketball tradition, great historic gym. I mean, that was a great town to hang out in for a couple of days. And at the end of the game, all these fans stayed and waited for Javonte. And, they were happy they won. And they got him over there, and they all stood there, and they gave him a standing ovation. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Just standing ovation. And Javonte, on cue, he'd already taken his Radford jersey off. He'd been crying. He knew it was his last game. He was very emotional. And he bowed. And he was high. It was great. And that's what college athletics is supposed to be about. We'll never have that back with the way things are structured now. It's unfortunate. But those were some great fans. That was fun. Oregon State was another place we played, and they were very respectful. They didn't know what state Radford was from. I'm sitting there on press row. I'm setting up. Chad, you remember Oregon State? You and I. That's when I was jogging in Corvallis. You and I were jogging around that graveyard. Remember that? And I'm sitting on press row, and you have the luxury seats, the money seats there. And these people were so nice, but they didn't know anything about Radford. And we had people going, where are you guys from? What do you play in a conference? You get those kind of questions. One guy said, is it Rodford or Radford? Is it Pan or Pam? Are you saying Pam or Pan? It's Radford. Anyway, Radford destroyed them. We hit, I don't know how many threes in that game. And the next day, their coach got fired. And I remember one of their big boosters leaned over and goes, well, it stinks that we lost, but thank you. This will finally do it. Keon, you remember. Keon Brown's watching. He was there. Keon played in it. You remember Oregon State, Vermont. And they were like, you probably got our coach. You probably helped get our coach out of here. Yeah, Craig Robinson. Yeah. Michelle Obama's brother. He got fired the next day. And that was fun. Could not miss. I think we jumped out, but what was it, KB? It was like 20 points. Was that right? Like right off the bat, like by the second media timeout, we're up by almost 20 over Oregon State. And I have people going, Radford? What is this? What's going on? But Vermont situation was special. But that's the way it was with Nebraska fan. Nebraska fan was total class. No matter what you think about anything else about that program, that was the epitome of class. Awesome. Yeah, Hokies rock. Nebraska fans are on another level. They are. The nicest fans out there. They are. Most respectful, too. And Tech fans a lot like that. I get the same vibe from Tech fan a whole lot. All right, don't forget, coming up, hour 2, Marty and Rags, and then later on Dwight Vick. And I really appreciate our next guest altering his time for us here. Andy Bitter, thank you so much. You don't look like you're up a little bit early. You look great. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for altering it so late in the game. But I tried to maneuver the timing, and it wasn't going to work. So thank you so much for being flexible.
No problem. The only time I usually get up this early is when I'm making a flight or something like that. That's about it. I was going to say to go golfing too, but I looked outside. I'm like, it's pitch black. There's no way I need to get up this early to go golfing.
Sorry. Here we are now. Conference play is here. A lot of things going on. How you feeling now? You watched Wofford. Coach Montgomery's got a game under his belt, and now they stake out on the road, and here comes that second part, that second season within a season. What I know it was Wofford, but what did you like, what you saw from Tech on Saturday? I haven't had a chance to talk to you.
At least that they had some positives going, right? I mean, they gained yards. They stopped them from doing anything. They sustained drives. They got in the end zone. And they did all the things you're supposed to do against Wofford. So that was at least something positive after the last couple of weeks where they couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't sustain any drives. They were getting hammered the whole time and, non-competitive contests. So to go out and at least get a win, I think is pretty nice. Now, I'm not going to get fooled and be like, oh my gosh, they're back. They're back. This team is back on track here. I still think there are plenty of issues within that program. Not the least of which is who was going to be playing on Saturday. So I'm not going to be fooled by that. But it was nice for a week. When you're 0-3, you're not going to turn away any kind of win. So they got to win. Fans feel great. Team feels nice for once this season. It was a nice Saturday.
Well, and things, I think Coach Montgomery put it so well, it may have been you that asked the question about, things aren't normal. No, but we're getting there. It's more normal this week. We're getting more into the routine. I think he handled that pretty well. You can really see that him being a head coach before, how that's playing in now and taking a positive effect, I think.
Yeah, I think you hear it in the way he talks.
Yeah.
There's a confidence that I think the players have in him, that he's done it before. He's very well at very good at not answering questions. Yeah. He's got a skill to him that he can say a lot without saying anything. I mean, last night, goodness gracious, it was just a great job by him. Every time we asked him, how about this guy? It's like, we're working through some things still and doing it. It's like, how about this guy? It's like, I'm going to say the same thing. We're working through some things. I mean, it was just a clinic that he was putting on with that stuff. So, he understands how to do it. He understands the game of a head coach. It's maybe frustrating a little bit as a media member that you can't get this. I think Pry couldn't help himself sometimes when you ask him a question. It's like, well, I'm not going to talk about injuries. Then he'd go into injuries and talk about it. I don't think Montgomery's quite like that. So, they have this availability report that's coming out today. Maybe that will offer some answers, but Montgomery certainly wasn't giving them in terms of who was going to be available, who was not.
Felt like a pretty good news week all the way around for Tech with the money information. And, you had Bruce Arians going, and we kind of knew he was going to help out. Mike Burnup had told us that. The structure, are you hearing things? Is it starting to kind of formulate a little bit, or is it just still way too early to kind of figure that out?
I think that there's going to be a structure with the GM and AD. I don't know exactly who reports to who. I think those are some of the main questions. And, understanding Virginia Tech's hierarchy charts, sometimes that's always sort of in flux and multiple reporting lines. And this person goes here, and this person goes here. And it's that's like,
right.
no. that's kind of confusing. I do wonder if maybe they're needlessly confusing this thing. Well, they have a search committee, and then Bruce Arians is helping the search committee. Well, is he on the committee or is he helping the search committee? Like, how many people are making this hire? And then they're so adamant. They're like, well, we got to get a GM in here first, and then the head coach. And like, that feels like the reverse order of what you want to be doing stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, what head coach wants to come in knowing that they're maybe not the most important person in the program?
100%.
I have some questions about the order of how they're doing this. And I kind of wish that they would be a bit more transparent about it. Certainly when they're going to be going to, say, hey, we're going to give $229 extra $1 million to the athletic department, and 120 million of it is going to come through philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
If I was one of the people being philanthropic to give money to this program, I'd want to know the process of how this was going to happen. And perhaps if you're giving money to that level, you already know what this whole thing is like. But I think they would help themselves by being a bit more transparent about this whole thing. I know they have this meeting coming up in 5 days. We'll see what kind of transparency happens there, what kind of questions they answers, but it's not a meeting that's open for public comment. So if the questions aren't coming from the board, are the questions going to come at all? So I'll be interested to see what they say at that meeting.
Yeah, likewise. And I couldn't agree with you more. I hate the whole aspect of having a GM in place. I know it's going to be an NFL model, but this isn't like the NFL. I just think that guy that coach wants to hire, and from people I've talked to around the coaching communities elsewhere that are looking at Tech, they're like, no coach is going to want to walk into that. At least no coach that has options is how they've worded it. Like if a coach has options, they're not going to like that structure, and they're not going to have Tech high on their list. If the coach just wants a job, then they'll accept it. But boy, like you said, you're creating a step that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. I mean, people say that, and then you throw $7 million their way.
That's exactly right.
I think I can make it work for $7 million.
I love the GM.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people talking about, I would never do that. It's like you're a little less principled when we're talking $7-8 million a year come your way. So
true.
Perhaps the options aren't as limited as we're making it out to be. It just seems weird in college football that the head coach has always been the king of a program. That's always the one that you hire first. And very rarely has that not been the case. It's only really sort of like Andrew Luck at Stanford. And that's been a weird situation where they had to fire the coach for non-football reasons. Cal has kind of created a situation where Ron Rivera is of equal power or more power than the coach. And that feels like an odd dynamic. And people have said, hey, maybe Justin Wilcox isn't going to like that and try to get out of there. So there aren't a whole lot of examples where the GM is more powerful than the coach. So I don't know why you would make that hire first in this situation, but that sounds like the order they're going to do it in.
Andy Bitter joining us on the program, the lead football beat writer for Tech Sideline. The Hokies on the road at North Carolina State this weekend. Well, getting back to the game, I know you guys have been talking about it. You've been breaking it down, and I feel like it's going to be a higher scoring game. But as you look at the Wolfpack, they can run the football, can't they? That's one thing that they've been consistent with this year.
They can. Hollywood Smothers leading the ACC in rushing. First of all, greatest name. I mean, that's such a fantastic
That's a great name.
But he's a fantastic player, too. A lot of yards after contact. I watched that UVA game. I mean, he was churning out yards against UVA. I know a lot of teams are churning out yards against UVA, but that's an improved team. And he really took it to him in that one. And you have CJ Bailey throwing the ball as well. It's sort of a pick your poison type of deal there. So this will be a real challenge. This is not Wofford out there that they're playing against. They're not going to hold them to -1 rushing yards.
No.
This is a game they're going to have to be, on top of things to play defense. And we'll see how many strides they make. I mean, that's a big thing last week. It's like, they got right on defense. It's like, well, they were playing not only an FCS team, but one of the worst offenses in the FCS. So I take it with a grain of salt, the results they had last week. It was a positive step. It's better than getting run over for, 9 touchdowns and 11 drives like they were against Vandy and Old Dominion. But you got to do that against an FBS caliber program and a power conference program before I truly believe, this defense has fixed itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, NC State's been susceptible, and we're waiting to see if the offense can build momentum. That was the only thing I deemed from that game. I agree with you. It's okay. Maybe Kyron Drone's gotten to a rhythm. Maybe he gained some confidence, but like the play calling and the scheming for that game, you just throw it out the window because now, like you said, here we are. Here's a like opponent. So let's see how it lines up again because it hasn't lined up very well against the other like opponents.
Yeah, but I thought Drones looked good in that game. I mean, there was a game plan that Wofford had. They said, "Hey, we're not going to let you beat us deep," and he took what they gave him, and he was efficient with it. And what was it, 27 of 32? There were a couple drops in there. There were a couple plays where the receiver stepped out of bounds before the ball got to them. I mean, those aren't Drones necessarily. Right. So there were probably 3 or 4 incompletions in there that weren't his fault. Otherwise, you're talking about perhaps a perfect game in terms of accuracy. For a guy who's never been the most accurate quarterback, you take that. I don't care who the opponent is. If you go out there and you execute the way they want to. I don't remember many passes that he had where the ball was put in danger or in harm's way. That's a positive result for a quarterback this year that hasn't had a ton of positive results. So you take him where you can get him. So you wonder if that gets him at least moving in the right direction. NC State has had its defensive struggles this year. This could possibly be a game where Drones could do some things in the air as well. So, we'll see how it goes. At least it was going the right direction. Offensive line didn't allow a ton of sacks. I think it was 1 sack in that game. Clearly, this is going to be a stiffer challenge here. See how they do against ACC opponents. But, they finally scored some points on offense. They finally sustained some drives and got the end zone. I would take those positives.
Well, let's look at the league this week. I always like to get your feel for it. Right off the bat, Friday night, I'm intrigued by Virginia and Florida State. They're scoring. Florida State, they open up. They maybe beat an overrated Alabama team. They've looked good, but then again, they had 2 games like Virginia Tech back-to-back, type of opponents like Wofford. So we don't know a whole lot about them. We know they look good up front, but what do you think? You think UVA can turn this? First of all, can UVA make something into a football event? Are they capable of that?
Listen, man, I used to cover UVA back in the day, and they had that's a good environment when they fill that place up. I mean, I remember the 2005 Florida State game. Marcus Hagans played the game of his life, and they upset Florida State in sort of the same manner that they beat them in 95. I think the end of that game was like a goal line stop or something like that. It was a gift of a lead. It's like, 10 years later, and they win in the exact same way.
Right.
I'm excited to watch this one. First of all, Friday night, so perfect. Hey, we're not going anywhere yet on Friday, so I get to watch that game. I'm really intrigued to see what UVA has for Florida State. I think their offense has been excellent. Defense needs to improve, obviously, but I wonder. Florida State's been coasting since it beat Alabama in that opener. Who they play last week? Kent State, something like that. I mean, that wasn't even a contest. So I'd be curious to see what it is. I think the line's like 7.
Yeah.
So it's not like an outrageous line going in there.
It's not.
I mean, UVA has some pretty cool throwback uniforms that they're wearing in this game. Have you seen those? It's like the ones they wore it's like the ones they wore in 95. Like,
I love it.
Really, I like it a whole lot better than their current uniforms.
That's cool.
So it's like, man, UVA's doing like cool throwbacks and they're playing a big game. Like, are they doing this right? This is interesting to watch.
Yeah, could they be?
It's been a while, it feels like, since they sort of had that program humming like this. And I know they went to the Orange Bowl that one year with Bronco, and they won the Coastal Division, went to the ACC title game. But I don't know. This feels a little bit different for some reason. This feels like maybe less than like, that team felt like Bryce Perkins really led the whole way. Chandler Morris has been great, but it feels like there's some other parts of this team that are really interesting to watch. So I'm curious to watch that game. I think UVA can give Florida State a game in that one.
I do too. I hope they can. I hope it's a fun game. David Till crushed me a little bit yesterday because I thought the ACC has done well this year because Clemson's no longer a factor, at least right now. I don't know what's going on. Dabo looked like he just lost his best friend. Maybe he has after the Saturday. And then he goes, well, Rick, they are still, 5-12, 5-14 against Power 4 teams. But, Miami, Florida State, Georgia Tech, I'm very impressed with them. And I think the next tier, NC State, throw them in there, Virginia, Syracuse, Louisville. There's some teams that are playing pretty well. But do you think the league's in a decent shape considering one of those teams isn't Clemson?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting with some new faces that are doing so well. Georgia Tech especially. I think that's going to be – I mean, you look at their schedule. When are they losing? I mean, I don't see a – now, it's Georgia Tech, and they show up for big games sometimes and don't show up for other ones. So who knows how that goes. But that could be really interesting to watch. I was down on Miami in the opener, and they keep shoving it in my face every time they play. I think they're number 2 in the country right now. That looks like a legit team down there. There's always the question, like, when will it hit the wall with Miami? Because it always seems to kind of do that. I don't know. Maybe they have enough talent down there and a quarterback in place that this isn't the year where that happens. So I'm really interested to continue to watch Miami. I mean, a Miami Georgia Tech ACC championship game would be really fascinating to me. Now, it's not the same, characters that it normally is, but I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. It might be a bad thing from an ACC perception standpoint if it's not Clemson. Obviously, Clemson's stunk so far this year.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech and Clemson both 1-3. I think if you tell a Hokies fan you'll have the same record as Clemson after 4 weeks, they'd be like, all right.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Coming along here. We're back, baby. No, not quite. Florida State, again, I'd be interested in seeing how they do tonight or Friday night against UVA. That's another really interesting team to watch. I think if Florida State's up there, Miami, if they're both really good, I think that holds up the ACC's perception. Unfortunately, people won't look at it that way if those teams aren't there at the top at the end of the year. If it's Georgia Tech and Louisville or something, they'll be like, "Oh, the ACC is down," even though those teams might be good, right? Like,
yeah,
I kind of hate how it goes like that, but that seems to be how the perception games works. But we're still only 4 weeks into this thing, so I think the ACC is not done great in the non-conference schedule, but is there a year they ever do great in the non-conference schedule? It just kind of feels like where they are right now.
Yeah, I'd be down for Carson Beck versus Haynes King in that ACC title game.
I'd watch the heck out of that. That'd be great.
I mean, yeah, that would be cool. All right, so what's the vibe going on in the room? What kind of game do you foresee in Raleigh Saturday evening?
It's tough to tell because I don't know who's going to be playing. And there might be some opt-outs that we don't know about. There might be guys still considering stuff. You're right on that red shirt line for a lot of players. And, you got a 30-day portal window right now. So, who's going to be in the starting lineup? Who's going to be playing major minutes in this game? This isn't an FCS opponent. So I think NC State's legit. I think the offense is legit. I think it's lined open at like 7.5 and it shot up to 10.5 pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of confidence in the Hokies. I'm probably in that boat as well. I mean, I haven't seen them compete against an FBS team in 3 weeks now. And the last 2 times they played them, they just got hammered. And the effort wasn't there. And, they weren't stopping anybody. They weren't getting any kind of consistent drive. So until I see them do that against an actual team and not a team like Wofford, bad FCS team, and I think I'm going to have my doubts about this. I'm probably taking NC State by a couple touchdowns in this one.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, show me, right? That's what we have to see. We have to see if they can go down there, circle the wagons, and put forth an effort where they're around in the fourth quarter and give themselves a chance. So we'll see. When you leaving? You leaving Saturday morning, you say?
Saturday morning, yeah. The noon start, or not noon start, 7:30 start. You don't need to get there night before. It's nice sometimes to get into town the night before, but unnecessary on a drive like this. It's not that far.
Well, I hope you get to watch some college football. Hope you don't miss all of it throughout the day. It's a big day. This is one of the few
weeks
we
might leave early enough to get to the hotel. Or we're just going to camp out and watch college football. The problem is all the good games this week, like super good games, like
good.
Oregon, Penn State's at night.
Yeah.
There's another one. There's an SEC game
Alabama,
this week.
Georgia game. Yeah.
Too. So those will be going on. I'll be covering Virginia Tech, NC State. So I might have it up on my screen as well. Probably.
You will. Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, listen, thank you so much again for being flexible this morning. I appreciate it. Didn't come across that you were up earlier. I'll tell you that. You were terrific as always.
Well, now I'll go get my daughter awake for school here and browse her to get her going.
There you go. Hey, I helped in your morning routine.
That's right. That's right.
Well, have safe travels, man. Look forward to talking with you next week. We'll be following Andy. Follow Andy on Twitter every Tech game. It's awesome. It's great stuff, man. Be safe. Have fun this weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. There you go. That's Andy Bitter. Great stuff, man. Andy's great. Appreciate him moving his schedule. I know it's a pain. I hated to ask. But the way things are going to work, we had to move stuff around. We are scheduled coming up here in about 5 minutes or so, Marty Smith and Steve Ragsdale. And again, let me just preface this. I may have to call Coach on the air. Just see if he's good. But he practiced. He's ready to go. And we had him on. He looked great. I have the screenshot that I shared with Marty. Let me see if I still have it. I mean, we've got the screenshot here of me and Rags doing our show or doing our test run together. So Let's see if you can see that. See right there? There you go. There's me and Coach. He was on the screen. There it is. There it is. So he's scheduled to come up here in just a little bit with Marty. While we wait, we want to thank all of our sponsors, Family Fencing. Thanks to all of them. The Family Fencing Studios here in Reiner, 540-200-8294 at familyfencingnrb.com. Agricultural, fencing, doesn't matter. Residential, commercial, they've got it. They got all the materials you need. No mess. They take their time. They do it right. Awesome stuff. I want to thank McClellan Chiropractic, sponsor of our chat room, Mark Hundley and Company. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Your chat room blows up every day, brother. And he watches the show, so he enjoys. Thanks to Pulaski County Sports Entertainment for being the presenting sponsor of this program. So honored to be able to say that each and every day. Thanks to Jonathan Sweet, Tim Miller and Company. We want to thank Little River Heating and Air, Charles Lee over in Christiansburg. They do a great job, the best job. They'll take care of your units in your home, and give them a call. Go see them. Go see them. Get them on your schedule. If you need something like that, that's who you should be calling up. I know a few of you have already done that. The attorney Ryan Prine Radford, our BDST Fan Question of the Week sponsor. How many Virginia Tech ACC wins do you foresee, or overall wins after the ACC schedule? 4 and 5 leading the way right now. That's where we are. National Bank member FDIC, Larry Ramsey. Thank you so much, the exclusive banking partner of BDST. Been with him for 35 years. No regrets whatsoever. Knew Brad DiNardo very well. He stepped down, and he couldn't have found a better person to take over than Lara. And thanks to Travis Williams, Professional Door Incorporated, residential, commercial garage doors, family owned and operated. They've been in business for 38 years. Right across from New River Community College on Route 100. If you have a garage door need, you don't need to worry about anybody else. They are the absolute best. And I mean that. I mean, those guys have an unbelievable reputation. They were so good, they got hired to take care of all the door facings of the Walmarts across the country. Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. So thanks to Andy Bitter. Dwight Vick scheduled to join us coming up in the third hour as well. And I think what Andy said, everything Andy said about the game coming up this weekend for Tech is probably where I fall on it too. Sorry, I needed a beverage. I do believe that Tech's going to be able to do some things offensively. I don't know how their defense is going to hold up long term. You can read between the lines, and Mike Burnett said it yesterday, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more with Dwight after Marty and Rags, but it feels like behind the scenes, there's going to be a lot of kids that aren't going to play or are going to leave the program immediately after Saturday. And that's just me reading the tea leaves. That's not me knowing for sure, because they're going to keep that close to the vest, but doesn't it kind of feel that way? Because not only did Burnett allude to it yesterday, Andy just did as well. He said, I don't even know who's going to play. Remember, we got the note this week that on the 2 deep, Damian Sordelette told us that they didn't even have it listed. And that is not the usual protocol at all. That is not the usual protocol. All right, so keep the messages coming in our chat room. We want to hear from you. And I am very excited as my friend. And there he is. He's hey, all buddy. Over. How are you, brother? Marty Smith joins us from ESPN. Marty and McGee. I know it's been a whirlwind. I saw your text last night. 7 cities and how long? What was the span?
Yeah, since last Tuesday, my run has been this. First of all, good morning, brother, and everybody watching.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of Giles Spartans watching right now. I love all of you. My run since last Tuesday, so that's 8 days ago, I guess, was this. Charlotte, Dallas, Portland, Eugene, Portland, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Charlotte, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, Tuscaloosa, Charlotte, and I will go to Athens, Georgia, either later tonight or first thing in the morning for the Alabama Crimson Tide invading the hedges in Athens. I have the reason that I've been doing all of that running is I have a couple of pieces that are fantastic, man. And I say this often, brother, and I'm sure I've said it to you before. The most underreported and certainly underappreciated part of collegiate athletics is the quality of the young people playing the games. And we lose sight of that sometimes. A lot of times as sports fans, especially with betting now and with fantasy now, we look at people as assets, not human beings. And so I love having the blessing at ESPN to bring the human condition home. And I have a piece on College Game Day Saturday on a young man named Kenyon Sadiq, who plays tight end at Oregon, who will be a first rounder. He waited his turn behind Pat Herbert and Terrence Ferguson, both of whom are NFL players now. With Herbert is with the Jags, and Ferguson, I think, is with the Rams. And just a fantastic young man who displayed a patience that's very rare in today's college football because he loved Dan Lanning and he loved the University of Oregon. He's from nowhere, rural Idaho, and was the number one recruit in that state. I think the 22 class, maybe might have been the 23 class, but really touching, emotional story about his grandfather's influence in his journey and his mother's sacrifice. Just a great young man. And then yesterday I was in Tuscaloosa with the Tide to sit down with Ryan Williams, who is one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the country. He is his ability to contort his body and to adjust to the football in the air and to make people miss is as elite as you'll find anywhere, anytime. And I had a very deep, thoughtful conversation with him as well, and that'll be all over ESPN in the next couple of days as well. What's up, GOAT?
There he is, Coach Ragsdale in the house. Look at that.
What's up? I'm
face.
trying to get my eyelids open this morning. That's what's up.
We didn't have this last time. And
Coach, you didn't have to worry about that makeup and all that stuff last time, did you?
We had to practice though. You made me practice this week. You took me to a Giles practice.
What do they say? You gotta practice like you're gonna play. So
it's all about reps, Coach.
Yeah, that's right.
All about reps, man. And by the way, welcome to the world of needing makeup so that the United States of America can see you before dawn.
Very true.
The trouble is I can't see them. I can't get my eyelids open. Pardon.
That's hilarious.
Well, it's great to have you both. And you know what was great too, Marty and I were talking right after the first time we had you guys on last month, and you said, hey, we should do that every month if it works out. And we just heard Marty's schedule. It's hard, but it's great that it's worked out here the second time, and people have been looking so forward to having you both on. So thank you so much for jumping back.
Well, thank you. I'm just happy that Marty made it. The last time I saw him, he was riding around in a covered wagon out in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah. Coach, let me tell you about that. So, all right. So a few years ago, that thing's called the Boomer Schooner. All right.
Yeah.
And they got these Welsh ponies that actually push that wagon. There's a T-bar kind of yoke thing that these ponies push this thing. People think that they're pulling it. They're actually pushing it. All right. So I got the opportunity to get in there with the young lady who is a senior at Oklahoma, Mara, and she kind of runs that show, all right, for the student group. So we get in there and I'm like, all right, Mara, now look, I have YouTube. I have access to the internet. I've seen this thing flip over before, and roughnecks go flying flying off like a bunch of dadgum birds. I said, I don't want to fly out of this thing. So after it flipped over in Memorial Stadium, they made it smaller, shorter, and wider. All right, you're a math guy. That's physics.
Lower center of gravity.
Correct. There you go. I learned that about 8:30 in the morning.
You're a NASCAR guy. You ought to know that those cars don't sit way up off the ground, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm not the engineer on the thing, big dog. I can tell you that. All right, so I have a question. All right, of course, I read Jeremy Haymore's great book, Bandana Express. Fantastic. I loved it. I read it multiple times, actually. And as I was reading it, all these questions popped in my head. The first one that I want to ask you is, at what point and why did you change the play call verbiage of our offense from, for example, buck 32 to swing 32?
Well, okay, that's I wanted everything to be as simple as possible. Okay,
for us feeble-minded types.
If I can, what's that?
For all of us feeble-minded mountain boys.
No, just for everything. You don't get me into that feeble mind thing, man. I could talk all day on that. You don't want it complicated, and so in the verbiage that's, well, for example, my dad, and I've still got the book upstairs. I don't know if I got into this in our last conversation or not, but basically most of what we do in our offense came from a book written by a guy by the name of Charlie Caldwell, who at the time was a very successful coach at Princeton University. And that was back in the early 50s, okay, late 40s, early 50s, after World War II. All right. And in fact, he had the last single wing tailback who was the Heisman Trophy winner play for him at Princeton. His name was Dick Kazmaier. You can look it up. Okay.
I'll do that.
So I've got that book upstairs. It's got the plays diagrammed versus a 5-man front versus a 6-man front. Okay. And they use the terminology, like you said, buck 32. All right. Well, really, you don't need the buck in front of that, because the buck describes the backfield action, but you can also do that with just 32. If it's a 30 series play, it's a buck lateral play. Okay. If it's a straight tailback series play, it starts with a 4. Okay. And so we had basically at that time two series, the 30 series and the 40 series. Okay. Now, and this is interesting. Later, myself and our two assistants, Vic Edwards and Don Lowe, we drove up to, it's just outside Columbus, Ohio, where Ohio State is. But we went up there to visit one of the last colleges in America to run the single wing. What's the name of that school? There was an article about them in Sports Illustrated. And I can't remember their coach's name now either, but we went up there, and they were really nice to us. And gosh, what was the name of that school?
I'm on it.
We're
telling that story. I'm on
what
it.
is it?
I'm reporting.
Okay, so we went up there and visited them. Well, I saw things. They showed us things that they were doing that are like I'd never seen them before. Okay, because all I'd watched up on the dining room wall with my dad were 30 series plays and
Denison?
40 series play. What?
Was it Denison University?
Denison University. That's it. Okay, the
Keith Piper.
Right, Keith Piper. And I brought back his playbook with me that's like yay thick. all right, where he's died, and he had different. And one other series my dad ran occasionally, not very often, was the fullback spin series, full spin, where the ball snapped to the fullback. He spins, and he can either give it to the tailback as the tailback goes behind him, or he can fake it to the tailback and keep it himself, or he can fake it to the tailback and give it to the wingback coming back on a reverse. All right. And, but I didn't fool with that any, because I felt like, again, I wanted to keep it simple. But after we went up there to Denison University, I saw, do you remember the play 47?
Of course, it's the greatest play in the playbook.
47. Okay.
It always worked, especially with Rayfield running it.
Oh, it's a great play. It's a great play. Okay. All right. And then the blocking scheme is just absolutely beautiful. And here's the thing. I don't want to give away too much with the single wing, but it's based on power blocking at the point of attack, because we got one extra man. You hear them on TV now talking about, okay, if it's a direct snap, let's say to the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, he'd make a fantastic single wing tailback.
He'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, and so they'll talk about, well, that gives them an extra blocker. Well, we've got an extra blocker in our offense all the time. All right. And that's very valuable. And so anyway, I'm getting off track here, but we came back with a series that we put in. I can't recall whether we had it when you were playing or not. The 60 series.
No, we didn't have that.
Ball was snapped to the tailback, and as the ball is being snapped to him, he steps toward the center, toward the ball. So he takes the ball as he's stepping forward, and he does a half pivot, so his back is toward the short side defensive end. Remember, we're an unbalanced line. So we got two linemen on one side of the ball, four on the other side.
So he's turning. So if his back's to the short side, so he's turning 90 degrees to his right, towards the wing back.
No, it's more like 90 degrees. Yeah. Or more. Yeah. Actually, it's about 180 degrees.
So he's turning all the way around.
He turns, and his back is to that defensive end over there.
I got you.
And the idea is you want that defensive end to lose sight of the football. Okay. So the tailback, as he receives that snap, he's stepping forward and he's pivoting all at the same time on his left foot and bringing his right foot around behind him. Okay. And so he pivots. Now that wingback has gone in motion about a step or two, and that, you just got to get that through practice, when to start him and that type of thing, so that it meshes. The fullback takes a step back and the tailback takes a step forward. So that gives you about a yard space in there between those two backs. And that wingback is just running as hard as he can run right in between them.
Wow.
So you got those three backs at some point all meshing together right there. Well, that gives you a lot of options. The tailback can give the ball to the wingback on a weak side sweep. He can fake it to the wingback and give it to the fullback going off tackle on the short side, or he can fake it to both of them. And he really doesn't fake it. I never had him faking it. I wanted him to just stick the ball in his belly, in his own belly, the tailback. If they can't see it over there, they don't know who's got it.
It's interesting too.
So I don't need to stick it out there and start jabbing it around because they may see it. So he just takes that snap, sticks it in his belly. There goes the wingback. Here comes the fullback. And then the tailback bootlegs out to the long side.
Yep.
So you got three backs going in three different directions. And any one of those three can have the ball. And we added that to our repertoire, and it really was beautiful. It really helped us. We could run a bootleg pass off of it. which in our last state championship down at James Madison, we completed a pass, a big pass down the right side of the field to Jared Brown, our right end, and from Ricky Cook, our tailback. And it was a huge play. And we added a little wrinkle to that prior to the game in the playoffs, where we could go into a double wing formation.
Oh, man.
Okay. Now, let me tell you how that came about. And I don't want to embarrass this young man, but you remember the Steele boys. Okay.
They're still some of my best friends.
Brandon Steele went up to Penn State and walked on up there. Patrick played down at Emory and Henry. Stevie Steele. I don't know. I don't think
Stevie played at Emory.
I thought, yeah, okay. He played down at Emory some. And then Micah Steele. Okay. Micah was the last one. Now, man, that was 4 good football players.
You're telling me they were tougher than a pine knot, son.
All right. Good kids, coach, great parents, the whole works. And great, smart, good students, all of them. Okay. So Micah only had one eye that he could see out of. The other was artificial eye, okay? And the artificial eye was on his left side, okay? Now, when he was playing for us, he was our best running back. And you'll put that guy at tailback. And hopefully he's a dual threat. He can run and throw. Rayfield Milton's the prime example of that.
You go.
All right. Leon King was another good example of that. Ricky Cook was another good example. Cooney Ratcliffe was a good example of that. Although he almost got killed when Cal Valley came up and played us in the playoffs one year. But again, I'm getting off topic.
I love it, man. I love it.
So where was I there?
You're talking about Micah Steele's eye.
Yeah. Okay, where we came up with a double wing. Well, Michael was our best running back. Okay, and but he had trouble taking the snap on the 40 series because when he turned to his right, to move, and when the ball was snapped, this is unlike the shotgun that the colleges and pros use. They snap the ball to the quarterback and he's stationary. Okay. Well, in our 40 series, he wasn't stationary. When that cut went, he was taken off as hard as he can go. So those centers had to lead him with their snap. All right. Okay. So anyway, all right. So Micah had trouble seeing that snap because of his left eye. He didn't have a left eye that he could see out of. So he was looking across his nose trying to take the snap. Plus 2 eyes gives you better depth perception, all right, than just one. Okay. So we said, well, how can we get the ball to Micah? Okay. Now this was in a coach's meeting on the weekend. And I had the bright idea. This was like halfway through the season, probably Micah's junior year. I can't remember, but I said, well, maybe we need to move the blocking back under center and go like a wing T. So all we got to do is hand it to Micah. I thought the other coaches were going to string me up and hang me, man. He said, no way. We're not doing that. We're not going to dismantle our single wing offense and put somebody under center. Although we did do that occasionally way back when the book there was written. Yeah. We'd move our blocking back and use a little short side series there to the left-hand side. But they said, no way, we're not doing that. I said, okay, man, I want some assistant coaches tomorrow. I don't want them all to go home.
Get new guys.
Speaking of assistants, man, we had some great assistant coaches over the years. I can't, name them all. They know who they are, and the players know who they are, and hopefully the fans know who they are. But we did say, okay, well, what we can do is take Micah and we can move him to fullback, So he's looking straight ahead when he takes the snap instead of like this. All right. And I can't remember who we put at tailback. It's probably Coon. Well, I know one thing. Cooney was sophomore year. He was the tailback and Michael was the fullback. But we said, okay, let's take Micah and move him to wing back on the short side. So we got a double wing look. All right. And we can send him in motion, just like we do our right wing in the 60 series. We can send him in motion from the left and snap it to the tailback. And instead of the tailback running into the 4-hole, we can just hand it to Micah and let him run into the 4-hole. Okay. So just a little bit of creativity there. Well, going back, so that gave us the double wing. And once we had it, we didn't get rid of it. Okay. So we carried it on through till my coaching career was over. Well, we're playing down at James Madison in our last state championship game. No, it wasn't our last state championship game because we also played the next year. We got beat the next year by Goochland. All right. But it was our last win. And so we took our fullback that night, not the whole game. In fact, I don't know if we did it, but maybe 2 or 3 times. And we moved him up to our left wing. Okay. I forget what we called it when we did that, but okay. So we moved him up there. So now we're in a double wing look. We ran that same 60 series, but with no fullback. So we're sending our right wing back into motion now, okay, to the short side. So that means now we got 3 receivers over there, potential receivers. Our wing back on the right is in motion to the short side. We've moved our fullback up to wing back on the left side, but we put in a different player to play that, more of a wing back instead of a fullback. Okay, took out our fullback, who was at that time was Ryan Hebner, and he was a darn good fullback, but he wasn't a real good receiver. So we put in a kid by the name of Logan Witt, all right, who was a wing back on the left now. And then we had our wing back on the right, which was Nathan Tanner, who was a super running back.
All world.
He scored 2 touchdowns that night on our reverse. Okay. And he's now the head coach up at Princeton High School. By the way, he's got a heck of a football team. We went up there to watch him play Bluefield, and gosh almighty, they really look good. But so anyway, we got 3 receivers over there. Well, we send our wing back in motion. That's Nathan Tanner, and we snap it to Ricky Cook. We had a pretty good backfield back.
Sounds like it.
All right, and better than pretty good. They were real good. So the wing back comes by. So he's going on out in the flat on the left. All right. Meanwhile, our left end has run a crossing pattern coming across the field. And our wing back / fullback is up at wing on the left, and he's just kind of going down the seam on the left-hand side. All right. So you got your one receiver out in the flat on the left. You got another receiver going down the seam, going down the hash mark on the left. And you got another receiver coming across the field from left to right in front of that safety man. All right. Okay. Well, here's what happened. Now, I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but let's try it. Okay. So what happened was this. Their halfback kind of comes up the field a little bit to cover that right wing going in motion. Okay, out in the flat. All right. Okay. The safety sees that left end coming across the field. The right end's running a flag pattern on the right side. So he's going down the right. And here comes our left end coming across the field right in front of that safety man. Well, the safety man jumps on him. All right, or at least moves in that direction. Guess what?
You got your left wing straight down the football field.
Wing back is going down the hash mark wide open.
Wow.
Wide open. And so, and Ricky Cook was a super tailback. Could run. I mean, he was big, had a darn stride that was, long. He covered some ground. I mean, Ricky was like, I don't know what he is, 6'3" maybe. I don't know how much he weighed, but he wasn't our typical tailback who, small and shifty. He was big and fast, okay? But and a good passer because he pitched in baseball, all right? So he bootlegs out to the right, which that kind of brings that safety man in that direction as well and just helps out that wing back going down the hash mark on the left. He throws it back to him. Logan Witt was real shifty. He makes the safety man recovered, but he had the advantage because he was already moving. Touchdown, 6 points. All right. Okay. So going back to your original question, why did the terminology change? Okay. Because we didn't need the word buck in front of it. We could just call it 32 or 38 or 36. All right. And that brings up another thing in that book. Going into the playoffs that year, we were 10-0, and there's a great story in that book too about the last game, Galax, and two of our players.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that's
an incredible story.
Every bit of it is true. Okay?
Oh, I believe it, man. I believe it wholeheartedly because that is the most Ragsdale thing ever.
Anyway, we're
got to hear this.
Going into the playoffs, and we've got 38, which goes up the middle, and we've got 32 that goes around the right end, pitch out. But we didn't have anything in the 6-hole. What's our 6-hole? Now, we had a 6-hole play, which was 46, meaning the tailback in the 6-hole, okay? But we didn't have anything out of our buck lateral series, out of the 30 series that attacked the 6-hole. And I said to myself, we need to add something to that 6-hole in the 30s with the 30 series, okay? Now, keep in mind, we always started every season. We would sit down as a coaching staff and we would decide what plays we were going to run for the entire year. And I was never much on adding plays and tinkering around. I did a little bit when I just felt like we really needed to do it. But we would go into every season. Well, the first day of practice, we would go into that first day of practice knowing that we were going to have 20 running plays, and we knew what those 20 running plays were going to be. Now, that sounds like maybe a lot of plays from running the ball. But, for example, 46 and 36, the point of attack's the same place. So the blocking scheme up front is the same. The only thing that changes is the ball handling in the backfield, okay? So it was 20 running plays, but it wasn't like those linemen had to remember 20 different blocking schemes, okay? They had – 8, maybe 10 schemes, blocking on plays. All right. So we would go into the season, 20 running plays, 10 pass plays. And the 10 pass plays, we had various patterns we could run with the same backfield action by just adding a word at the end of the play. All right. Now I kind of picked that up. I don't know if I picked it up or not, but Rich Rodriguez, who is returned to West Virginia now, I would go every spring up to a coaching clinic somewhere that all these colleges have with their spring practice. It's a recruiting tool, get the coaches in onto campus and, feed them and then you have your coaches talk and stuff. And sometimes the head coach would talk and sometimes they wouldn't. But Rich Rodriguez, he got up and talked, man, which I really appreciated. And I love listening to him talk. And he talked about their passing game where they had, this play and that play and such, and all they had to do was add a tag on the end of it, like fly or flat or something like that, So for us, for example, it might be we could run 42 pass cross. All right. And what that did is everybody's running 42 pass, except our two ends change their pattern. All right. They cross. The right end goes to the post, and the left end crosses the field right off his rear end. Okay. And that really came in handy down on the goal line sometime. We could run that crossing pattern down on the goal line. And if they're playing man to man, you're going to pick those guys off. Yeah. Okay. Or at least, you're sprinting out in one direction and you got one receiver going opposite. And, it's amazing. This is amazing. You watch the pros, college, whatever, their guys make the same mistakes that kids make in high school. It's unbelievable. All right. For example, you get down on the goal line, run a play action pass, and those secondary guys will be looking into the backfield to see what's going on instead of reading their key, which is a tight end or something like that. And then bang, somebody's standing wide open in the end zone. So, and I remember going to a clinic down at Myrtle Beach one winter, and there was a pro line coach down there talking. Okay. And I was sitting there listening to him, and he starts talking about these linemen that he's coaching. And after about 5 minutes, I'm saying to myself, my gosh almighty, he's got my lineman playing for him. They're making the same mistakes as our kids are making, same mistakes, So anyway, going back, where were we, Marty? Remind me.
So kind of where we veered off course right there was Rich Rodriguez is addressing the coaches that have been wined and dined in Morgantown, West Virginia.
So
and he's sharing with you that you're adding an adage onto there's a bit of an addendum to each play call.
We're talking about 36. Okay.
Correct.
So going into the playoffs, I said we need a 6-hole play out of the Buck series. So that was easy, just 36 instead of the fullback going right up the middle. He's going, to the right a little bit, kind of off tackle. All right. And in that state championship game, we scored 2 touchdowns on 36. Okay.
Greg King.
And Greg King took 2
Wow.
touchdowns in there. And so now your original question was what?
Let's see. That was about 35 minutes ago. Let me see if I can think back. I asked you why the verbiage changed.
Yeah. Just to make it simpler. I didn't need Buck and all that type stuff. Just 36, 32.
Oh, wow.
But I'll tell you what, what I could add was something like in our passing game. And we did this a good bit in our running game. We would add a word after the play, and that told the lineman to change their blocking just a little bit. All right. Like, for example, we could run 38 sucker. All right. Where we would pull, instead of our 8-man staying in there blocking, he would pull and go around the end like he does on 32. And the guy in front of him, if he's reading him, he runs right with him. Well, God, we don't even have to block him. Just run up through there. And then we could vary our blocking on 32. We had about 3 or 4 different ways we could block it out there on the corner, depending on how they're playing us. We could send our right end in after the linebacker, and our wing back would block their force, what we call force man, or they could switch jobs and so on. So we could basically, we just had two digits. First digit, 30 something, tells you what the backfield action is going to be. All right. Second digit tells you where the point of attack is. and everybody knows how to run it. Okay. And then if we want to make a little adjustment on the blocking scheme, we just add a word at the end. 32 pull, 32 cross, 32 whatever. All right. And then we just rep the crap out of them. And that's another thing.
Yeah, we sure did.
When we went into our the first week is in shorts. Okay. First 5 days, you got to be in shorts. And maybe you can add your pants on the fourth day. Because God, I hated them shorts days because they'll fall on their knees and get them all scratched up and torn up, and they won't heal up. By the end of the season, they've still got.
Do you remember? All right. Forgive me for interrupting, but this is important. Ahead. This is important.
Okay.
Do you remember Ricky Lee's hillbilly remedy for all those strawberries and raspberries that we all walked around with all the time from August 5th until we won the damn state championship? We were all beat to hell with all these because our practice field, Rick, our practice field had 0 blades of grass on it.
Hey, don't talk like that, because guess who the groundskeeper was up there on that practice field? So, you listen to this. I used to go up there. I had one sprinkler on that practice field, and I'd go up there and move it. And Sarah was just a little girl. She's 40-some years old now. And I'd take her with me, and she'd go find ladybugs while I move around the sprinkler. Okay? So go ahead with don't be too critical of the grounds. Grounds, all right?
As a man who quite literally, when I go to a college football stadium now, I know the grounds crew guys, and I am so appreciative of the stadiums and the programs that have natural grass. Yes. I am the biggest natural grass proponent on the face of the earth.
Oh, me too.
I hate turf. I can't stand it.
Me too.
So yeah. All right. So despite the fact that I am disparaging Coach Ragsdale's horticultural genius, we all had these strawberries everywhere all the time. And one of our assistant coaches back then was a guy named Ricky Lee. And Coach Lee was a hoot. This guy was a hoot. And he had this hillbilly remedy for these strawberries. Coach, do you remember what it was?
No, I don't.
Pepto-Bismol. We would take.
No, I've never. You're telling me something I've never heard.
We would take Pepto-Bismol. Oh my God! It would dry those raspberries up.
No kidding.
So fast, and man, it was crazy how quick it worked. But we were all walking around with a bunch of pink patches all over us, looking like we got leprosy or something. Well, that wasn't too good trying to get the girls in the hallway, I can tell you that.
Well, Coach Lee was our go-to guy when it came to finding out what's going on with the team.
Yeah, he was.
All right, with the players, with the, as they say in TV lexicon, in the locker room. All right. If we wanted to know, for example, that deal that I just mentioned there a minute ago that's in the book on that Galax game with two of our players, all I had to do was get Coach Lee and say, hey, Ricky, go, find out what's going on, find out what's happening. So he'd go out there and start talking to the kids, the players, and he'd come back, 30, 40 minutes. Hey, Coach, here's the deal right here. So he was my spy. Okay.
He was your narc. We all knew he was a narc.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, there's 30 minutes worth of discussion for one question. But
it's awesome. Like I could listen to it all day. Like I can't describe to you the joy that I take from just sitting there and listening to you, because I go back. So just from a personal level, from a human condition personal level, you are such a hero to me and to everybody that I played with. And I have a text group. I text individually with at least 15 of the guys that I played with at Giles High School, because so much of what you taught us, we all carried into our adult lives. And I know that in a time when maybe that wasn't quite as prominent as it is now, you always had it on your heart to grow men, good fathers who worked hard, who cared about other people, and who learned how to bust our ass and maximize the gifts that the good Lord gave us, because it should be a self-accountability proposal. And if we don't maximize that, then our brother beside us cannot maximize his. And within that, you learn so much about the real world. You're going to lose a lot more than you win in this life. We didn't. But you're going to lose a lot more than you win in this life. And so how do you manifest that and repurpose that into the fuel that it takes to be better and not make the same mistake again? I'll never get over. Coach, do you remember the name Aaron Fuller? He played wide receiver at Lebanon, and he had like 4,000 yards receiving against me in the state, in the region final in 1992.
Joey Caldwell got hurt, and you were his backup.
That was a bad proposal for you, buddy.
But that was a learning experience for you.
Big time.
But let me say a couple things there that what you're saying brings to mind. I always felt like, and I would think about this, I think this goes back to my background in college I started out as a physics major, and it took me like 1.5 years to realize, man, this physics stuff ain't what you did in high school, buddy. They're talking about atomic forces and stuff like that. Had a college professor and there weren't but 3 or 4 of us in the class. It was called modern physics, and they're talking about quantum mechanics and all this type stuff. And he'd come in and start the room was not very large, and there were chalkboards all the way around. And he was a chain smoker, so he'd have a crucible in every corner of the room. Well, this is no lie. And he'd have his glasses down to the end of his nose, and he'd be looking out through those glasses and writing stuff up on the board. And he would just start going around that room, and he'd get to the next crucible. He'd put his cigarette in that and light up his next one, start smoking that one. And so he'd just go all the way around the room. And when he got back to the start, he'd start erasing that and start writing up again. And by the time class was over, every crucible had a cigarette in it. And we were sitting there, students, like, or at least I was, like, God almighty, what's this guy talking about? So anyway, I got out of the physics and got into, but I learned a lot there. I learned a lot about it. And one thing I learned about it is I don't know a darn thing about it.
You don't want to do it with your life.
You don't want to do it. And I ain't smart enough to figure it out. So, but you got to take a lot of math to do the physics. So I switched over to math, and that worked out fine because you got to have a lot of math to do the physics thing. Okay. But so that gave me the I don't know. I think that's where I learned to think,
critical
analyze things, analyze. So like in the spring of the year, when I'm out mowing my lawn and I'm coaching, I'm thinking about the fall of the year. You're pushing the lawnmower, and I still push the lawnmower to this very day. And it's not self-propelled either. It's leg propelled. Okay. So I'm pushing the lawnmower around. I'm thinking about, well, now who's going to play 7-man next year? Let's see. John Doe, I think he can play 7. Who can play 9-man? So I'm thinking about the upcoming season. All right. Well, one thing I used to think about when I was coaching, just in general, basketball, football, anything, was do sports need to be in public education? Are they a necessary, or not maybe necessary, but are they a beneficial thing for public education, because public education is paid by the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
My salary for teaching was coming from taxpayers' money, part of which was mine and yours and Rick's. Okay. All right. And so if you can't say that, hey, there's some benefit to high school sports, there shouldn't be any high school sports. It ought to be on a club level, instead of playing for the Giles High School Spartans, you play for the Giles County, X team.
Yeah, okay? Rorton Club.
So you got to be able to say, hey, there's some kind of benefit to this. And if there's not, we ought not to be doing it. Well, there is benefit to it, in my opinion. All right. And right here sits 3 people that have benefited from it.
Yep.
Okay. And I could go down the list of things like mental toughness. You're not always going to win in life. You're going to get your rear end beat sometimes and get knocked down sometimes, and you can't quit. You got to get up and do it again. So on the football field, you get knocked down, you got to get up and do the next play, okay? And it don't do you any good to whine around and cry around about what just happened.
Yeah.
Because here,
I'm having flashbacks.
Guess what? Here they come again,
yeah.
Okay? And I think about Radford when I say that, and I think about Coach Linneberg, which, just died here recently. And let me also mention, while I'm saying that, is oh, shoot. My memory's getting terrible. All right. The coach at Christiansburg and down at Powell Valley.
Robbins.
Phil Robbins. Yeah, Phil. He just died over the weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. And those 2 guys, they were in the New River district when I first started, and it was dog eat dog every year, and looking back on it, man, that was so great. And they were such good coaches. And then Phil went down to Powell Valley. My God, I mentioned Cooney there a few minutes ago. They came up here and played us one year, and they had like a darn college team out there. They like to kill poor Cooney, but he didn't quit. He didn't quit. He kept on playing, and we're getting the snot beat out of us. And a funny story on that, at the end of the game, right toward the end of the game, I always wanted to get the team together and the guys on the sideline and say, hey, you behave yourself. And I always believed in good sportsmanship. Okay.
Yes,
you win, you go shake their hand, say good game. You lose, you go shake their hand and say good game. I don't want any dancing and prancing and all that stuff if we win. And I don't want any being a horse's rear end if we lose. Okay. So I was talking about Powell Valley. Oh, yeah. So we're playing Powell Valley up here in the playoffs. And, oh, God, they just beat us unmercifully on the scoreboard, on physically, every way you could get beat. Okay. Well, like I said, I always would gather the team around me right toward the end of the game and tell them, okay, you know how to act. You act like you should act. Okay. And go shake their hand and say good game. And that's all I ever told a coach at the end of the game myself personally. I didn't want to be a horse's rear end. If we lost, I didn't want to be hey, man, we whipped you if we won. It was the same thing every time. Good game, coach. Shake his hand, leave the field. Okay. All right. So anyway, so I tell one of the assistant coaches, hey, how about getting the team and getting them down here around me? He comes back in a minute and he says, Coach, hell, they're clean down on the other end of the field down there. And the point being, they didn't want to get put in the game, man. They were like,
that's hilarious.
They were getting as far away from me as they could get. So, I'd always try to get some of the subs in the game for a few plays, if possible, win or lose. I turn around, I can't find any. Coach comes back and tells me, Coach, we can't make them come down here. So, but anyway, I did want to mention Phil and Coach Linneberg. They were two very, very good coaches, and their record shows it. But anyway, let's see. I was talking about, the thing, if the athletics don't have some benefit, they shouldn't be in public education. But I think they've got a lot of benefit.
No doubt.
And I think kids that participate in it, whether it's football or any other sport, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Well, I think, too, there's certainly intrinsic value for the athletes.
Yeah.
Back to what I said a minute ago. But on a much more macro scale, there is, at least from my experience, and I wrote this in Never Settle, the way that it galvanizes and unifies a community is unparalleled for a lot of towns across this country. High school football is a thread in the American fabric.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't care if you're in Parisburg, Virginia, or you're in Compton, California, or you're in Bangor, Maine, or Sunrise, Florida, or damn Odessa, Texas.
Yeah.
It weaves through the American fabric. And for those of us that played it, it is forever within you. And I remember this distinctly. And I was thinking about this the other day, because I'm rereading Friday Night Lights again. I read it every fall. I've read it every fall, and my copy, Coach, you'll smile at this because you knew Mama. I don't remember the details, but it was September 12th, 1990. I thought it might have been Hurricane Hugo, but I think that was 89. Anyway, for some reason, you guys didn't play on a Friday night in September of 1990. I don't know if it was a storm or the other. I don't remember the details because I was, 13 years old or whatever. But my mama bought Daddy a copy of Friday Night Lights, and in the inscription that she wrote inside the inside flap of the book, it says, I hope that this helps you manage the Spartans not being able to play tonight, or something along I'm paraphrasing my mother. I love you, Joy. And it says September 12th, 1990. And Daddy went with his penmanship and rewrote the date above Mama's note. And I have that book, that exact book. And I read that book every single fall. To me, Friday Night Lights is the greatest book I've ever read. And that book is not about, it just uses high school football as a platform for socio-political America. And how so often all the lines that divide us in our daily walk are completely erased when you step between the lines on a football field on Friday night. Because all that matters is, does that guy do his job so that I can do my job, and so we can win this game and beat them and build this community and grow this community. Because God is my witness, when you win on Friday night, all them boys that are working at Celanese were winning on Monday morning when they went.
Yeah. There's nothing like it, really. I mean, it's a unique thing, probably to America in general, but certainly to our community here. Friday Night Lights. There's something about when they throw those lights on, turn them on. And, it hadn't always been that way. When my dad first started coaching, came out here to Western Virginia from Lynchburg College and from the tobacco fields that he grew up in Lunenburg County. Well, guess what? The first athletic event that he laid his eyes on when he got to Narrows, Virginia. Just guess.
Let me think about this.
Narrows, Virginia.
High school athletic event. First athletic event he saw.
A tennis match.
No.
No.
I don't know.
Outdoor fall basketball.
Oh, wow.
There was no football. There was no football. And there at that time, there wasn't a gym.
Were they playing at the Boone?
No, they were playing it where they still play football, right down there on the end of the field where the scoreboard is. But the first thing he saw was an outdoor basketball game. This is high school basketball game between Narrows and Harrisburg high schools. And he said it ended up in a fight. All right.
Of course.
And
naturally.
And then they started football his second year. But this first year there was no football, and that high school down there wasn't there. All right. They went to school up on top of the hill down there. And then they built that old high school that we would go in there and dress on the end of it there if we went in there at all. All right. And they always came out of what used to be the gym in that school. But that school wasn't there. All right. Then, not in the early 30s. I guess maybe it might have been there the next year. I'm not sure. But first athletic event, high school basketball outdoors.
Wow.
And I guess they played, I guess it was like just a dirt surface.
Wow.
Next question. I don't even know if I answered the last one or not.
Well, I hope we could keep doing this. I know, Marty, you still every month if we can work it out, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm all in, man. This is a joy for me. I mean, it's an incredible joy for me to.
It's unbelievable, Coach.
Listen to you. I'll tell you what, I love doing this.
You're great at it. You're great at it.
I just like telling stories.
Man, it's so good.
And let me finish with one thing. There's a coach. I think we mentioned it the last time. You're aware of him, Marty. I think he's from Martinsville originally. Played football over at Tech. He now is up. He coaches in Washington D.C. in the city at I think it's like a church school of some kind. And he, for the last about 4 or 5 years, he comes down to visit his family or whatever in Martinsville. And then he drives, his name's Orion Martin.
Oh yeah.
And he drives up here and he gets together with me and Coach Kelly, and we sit down and talk single wing football. All right. And he actually has incorporated some of it into his offense on occasion. But my point is, I just love sitting down with him and talking going over the plays and blah, 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 blah. And so anyway.
Well, you should still be coaching.
That's what?
The first thing I'm like, why isn't he out there?
You know what? About the last couple of years, I got to the point where, when I first started, I just loved it. And I loved everything about it, coaching, anything. But by the time I got to about year 28, 29, 30,
sure.
I'd kind of run out of gas. And it was like drinking I don't drink coffee, but I'll use that as an example, drinking a cup of coffee. You sip it, but it's gradually getting less and less and less and less. And at some point it gets down to to the bottom of the cup. And this is crazy, but the last year or two, I got to the point where I'd go to bed on Sunday night, not Thursday night, Sunday night, and I couldn't sleep for being all wound up thinking about the week ahead. You know, not just the opponent on Friday night, but what we're going to do in practice every day to get ready for that opponent. And what am I going to say to them every, Monday or whatever to get ready for that opponent. And I can remember, and I'm going to shut up on this, coming out of the locker room my very last year at halftime of some games, and I was just like spent because, I was high. I was, as Marty knows, what I am here, Mr. Nice Guy and everything like that.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Me at halftime of a football game.
Not even a little bit.
I was like three different people. I was a coach. I was a classroom teacher. And then I was a husband and parent. All right. And I wasn't the same in the classroom that I was out on the football field. All right. But man, those just the whole thing, just every ounce of energy I had was going into it. And I'd walk out of that locker room at halftime, and it was a fairly, decent walk out back out to the field. I was like, man, I'm worn out right now. Yeah. And then we're only halfway through. So, I gradually got to the point where it's time to hang it up and let somebody else do it. Yeah. And so that's the way it is. Sooner or later, that's got to happen.
What's great about this, you guys can't see this, but on our text line, professional or text line, I'm getting all these people that played high school football around, didn't play at Giles, didn't know nothing about Single Wing, saying this is the greatest thing they've heard because it's taken them back. What Marty just said, all these people, 24 texts, just this is taking me back to how I felt. Right?
You may have to go pay bills, Rick. I don't know. We're sitting here gabbing.
Can I tell you one more quick story?
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I just have 2 college game day features to finish.
Coach Lindbergh.
We can throw Dwight on here if you want. Dwight Vick.
Coach Lindbergh over at Radford, I don't know if they still do this or not, but they have this fundraiser in the spring where they bring in somebody to talk, okay? Well, Coach Lindbergh, and they have people come in, they buy tickets and to eat and everything like that. Well, Coach Lindbergh invited me over to talk at this dinner. Now you got to keep in mind, man, we were great rivals. That was a heck of a rivalry between us and Radford, and also us and Blacksburg. But I thought to myself, my God, what am I going to talk about? They'll tar and feather me and throw me out. After I finished talking, all these ex-Radford players came up to me and started talking to me, and they were so friendly and cordial, and it just it was the best thing, and I enjoyed doing it so much. I was so uptight about doing it, but they were just so nice and everything.
The reason is respect.
Well, I don't know, but
I do.
They were. 100%. It really struck me how nice they were.
I'll
shut up. Hey, I've enjoyed it this morning.
I'm gonna tell you what. Next time, I'm gonna have to tell a story about Coach. I gotta make sure that I properly prepare for how to address this story. Speaking of Radford, because the greatest, most memorable butt chewing I ever got from Coach was at halftime at Radford High School in the fall of the year of our Lord 1993.
Well, we were down by 18 points.
Here we go.
Down by 18 points in the first quarter, man.
We were getting our butts beat. Cornell Wesley
like it was
200
yesterday.
yards rushing in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I love you, Coach, man. Thank you for your influence in my life.
Love you guys again.
We'll reconvene in October. Gentlemen.
Just yell at me. I know how to use the camera now. As long as you look send me the link.
And you didn't look like you said you looked like what'd you say? A woods critter. You thought you had bags under your eyes.
Look like great. A raccoon, man. These bags under my eyes look like a darn raccoon.
Yeah, you look great.
Nothing I can do about it. I'm not having surgery on it. I promise you that. Hey, talk to y'all later.
See y'all.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Coach. Thanks, Marty. We'll see you, man. Y'all be good. Enjoyed it tremendously. All right. Great stuff as always. Joining us now on the program, we have Dwight Vick. Dwight, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Good morning. I was just sitting backstage listening to that, man.
How great was that?
That was great. Yeah, you got him coaching on, man. They were reminiscing and sound like when I go back home. Yeah, it was good.
I was going to say,
it was
because, talking about the appreciation of high school football, and you're going around talking to high school teams all the time. You understand it, and it's more of a bigger feel, a city type of feel, as opposed to, here we are. But you understand every bit of what Marty and Coach were just talking about, right? You lived it. You live it
Marty,
now.
I heard 1993. That's when I was coming out of high school. So that might have been my senior year. So I was listening. Yeah, when they were talking about being down 18 points in the first quarter. I mean, you never lose those memories. You never lose those. You never lose those memories, and you never lose the relationships. That's what people that play high school sports really value. That understand the big picture, like your relationship with coaches and players, and memories, wins and losses. They stick with you forever. Like you mentioned, I was home 2 weeks ago. And went by my old high school, spoke to the team. They're having a great season so far, 3-0. And it was great just to look back at the practice field and the weight room. A lot of that now has evolved. Like they built it up, and it's much better than when I was there. So it's good, man. I remember, you go to certain hallways, you pass certain classrooms, you remember it takes you right back there to that time when you were young.
Well, let's jump back into this Virginia Tech season. It's still ahead of them. Conference play begins. I didn't take much out of Wofford. You may have seen some different things. Kyron Jones had good numbers. Maybe that's a good thing. But you play a game like that. Phil Montgomery's got a game under his belt now. And we know the problems they had. You broke them down and you saw it. You can tell immediately. But when you watch them up front, do you think you saw something that maybe gives you a little more hope than maybe you had before going into the conference schedule?
Well, I did see a more commitment to running the football. I think Virginia Tech has prematurely given up on the run in every game they've been in. Vanderbilt, they were consistently giving up on the run too soon, where the running game was there, especially in the first half when they led by 10. You look at the ODU game. ODU was terrible and remains terrible against the run. And they just would run the ball and then they would just throw. They came out in that game throwing. I'm like, what are you doing? Run the ball. South Carolina, they had some great runs and they were controlling the tempo of the game. We talked about that after week 1, but then they didn't take their shots. And then Drones had that egregious interception in the red zone in the first half where he should have taken the points and thrown the ball away. So what do I take from Wofford? That they played a complete game. There was some mishaps, but overall they looked good. Hey, look, this team right now, the Virginia Tech franchise or organization when it comes to football, as fans, media types, and whatnot, we can't be picky. It's a win.
It's a win. Right.
At one point, I was skeptical about whether or not they were going to be Wofford. I was skeptical. So I don't know, but I'll take it. It was a good win.
Well, all these things that are still hovering around the program in the background, and we don't know how all that's going to shape out. I want to ask you the general question because I think we may have spoken about it, but, Andy Bitter and I think agree with this. This whole GM before the coach thing, it seems like Tech's dedicated to that. And I understand that's the NFL model, but we're talking about college football where this is still relatively new. And let me just ask you, DV, if you were an established coach and you were working your way up, and you were ready to become the football coach at Virginia Tech, and you were talking to them, and you realized that you weren't going to be able to hire the GM, how would that affect your mindset, knowing that wouldn't you want your guy in there who knows what you're all about with your roster, with the way you play, how you want to build this thing, as opposed to coming in and going, oh, so he's the AD, he's the GM. So, it just seems like it's creating a lot of ambiguity for the next head coach.
It's definitely interesting how they're doing it. It's unique, but at this point, the old model that Virginia Tech has tried in hiring a coach twice has failed.
This is true.
So they did it the traditional way 2 times after Beamer, and it's failed. The first time it didn't fail initially. The first 2.5, 3 seasons were good. The first season was great with Fuente. Then, you saw 10 wins, 8 wins. So you saw it trending downward, and then it got to 5 and 6 wins, and it just went backwards, right? And then with Pry, he just never got control of the wheel. Like, a few times he was able to get those tires rotated on the car, and it rolled smoothly when you won 7 games last year. I mean, a year before that, but then it just never got. He would miss his exit when he was driving on the interstate, or he had to make a U-turn. He just never got into a full swing. So I'm not against this model, because I think right now Virginia Tech is really in a position where they have to be not desperate, but have a sense of urgency. Because they, as the kids say, they fumbled the bag. They had too many missed opportunities and just the internal infrastructure of their program. So I think if I was a seasoned coach, I would still take a strong look at Virginia Tech, because if I'm unemployed or if I know I can coach, to me, I'm going to be able to work with anybody, unless it's just somebody that just doesn't understand how this thing should look. So if and again, this is just me saying this, right? If I'm a Saban, I'm not saying Saban's coming, but if I'm a Nick Saban, a GM is not going to bother me. I've coached in the NFL and I've coached at Alabama, and I won several national championships. Many people consider me the greatest college football coach of all time. If I'm a Shane Beamer or another quality coach that's coaching the SEC or the Big Ten, because that's what Virginia Tech's looking at. They're looking at a high-profile seasoned coach. I'm good. If I'm a coach at Appalachian State, where I'm winning and I'm taking a look at Virginia Tech, I can work with a GM, because the GM, in a lot of ways, if I'm with or if I'm the AD, it might be a situation where the Board of Visitors and the infrastructure of Virginia Tech might be looking to replace the AD with the GM and say, okay, you Whit or whoever the AD is, you go over here and you worry about these Olympic sports. You go cover baseball, you go cover wrestling, and we're going to have a GM strictly for football and basketball, our 2 big revenue sports. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not in the room, but I do know that a seasoned and veteran coach can work with a GM. I think Andy and you, obviously, 2 guys I respect and are very insightful and knowledgeable. You're not wrong with how it looks a little bit weird. But I think at the same time, if I'm coming in, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think businessmen know this and businesswomen as well. If I'm coming in and y'all need me, I'm a head coach and I got credibility, I'm going to make sure I have leverage, because I do. I'm going to make sure I come in and I'm interviewed. You need me. You guys are terrible right now. You got this new money. This is what I'm going to do. And we're going to negotiate from that standpoint. I'm going to say, okay, if this is my GM, she or he is going to work with me. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to have this. And I need this. And you're going to give it to me. I'm going to come in just like that, because this is the leverage that this new coach is going to have. Virginia Tech can't afford, I'm going to say this again, Virginia Tech can't afford to miss on this hire. It's not even about just X's and O's. With the new realignment coming soon in 2028 or 2029 in college football, you can't miss. You can't afford to miss.
Dwight Vick joining us on the program, the founder of Victory Life. Let's see here. Hopefully we can get him back here. Looks like he's frozen up there. Let's see if we can get him back here. Let's see. Did he come back? No, we lost Dwight. Did we lose Dwight? We may have to send him another invite here. Let's see here. Yeah. Let me do that right now. I agree with what he said, though. We're going to try to get you back here, Dwight. Hang on just a second. I'm going to send sometimes you just have to send a fresh send a fresh invite here. We're visiting with Dwight Vick joining us on the program. And I'll tell him I sent a new invite. There we go. Yeah. Send a new invite. Now, sometimes you have to do that because it's technology. Sometimes the old link just quits working, and they warned me about that. There he is, looking great. Sometimes the old link just freezes up, man. So there you go. Always just send another one. But I like your point is 100% correct. And I think that's the coach has to have that leverage and has to have that mindset. And I just worry, my concern is that maybe that GM will try to take that away. But we'll see. You're right, though. It has to be the right kind of seasoned guy, doesn't it, to accept it all?
Yeah, I don't know where I got froze up at, but I was just saying right before the link went out,
Yeah.
that Virginia Tech cannot afford to miss on this hire. So whoever the new hire is going to be, he can come in, excuse me, I apologize. He can come in and demand whatever he wants as long as it's within a budget. And with this new budget getting ready to be approved, I'm assuming that they would not have submitted without it knowledge that it's going to be approved.
Yeah, it's going to be approved. Yeah.
And so when that gets approved, I'm coming in knowing you have the money and I'm a credible coach. I don't care who this GM is going to be because that GM is going to have to work with me. And they're going to have to meet my demands because right now I'm walking into a situation where you guys have had your 1-3. Before that you were 6-7. Before that you were 7-6, and before that you were 3-8. You're not going to tell me anything. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to build this program the way it's got to be. And that's the leverage that this new hire is going to have. So as I mentioned before my link went out, the truth of the matter is that Virginia Tech football is not in a position to be picky. They have to be smart in their hire, but they can't be picky.
It sounds like to me, I've been waiting to ask you this because it sounds like we're reading between the lines, and you can take us inside a locker room as well as anybody that I know. Mike Burnup alluded to it yesterday. Andy Bitter did this morning. It sounds like there's going to be a big exodus right after this game. We'll find out about – they didn't release a too deep this week. Seems like there's been some things going on, some rumors that look like they're getting closer to happening. How does that affect things for the guys who are out there committed to play and stay? Because we knew this was likely going to happen. So what's your thoughts on that? And how in the world, let's say you're the captain and you were a leader and captain, how in the world do you try to make sure the team focuses on the Wolfpack and not thinking about who's not going to be here on Monday?
Hey, you know what? This is going to sound mean and harsh. I don't care.
No,
you know why?
I get it.
You know why? Because with the guys you have, you're 1-3. I mean, listen, man, look, I'm going to say this to you, Rick.
That's true.
I'm going to just say this, Rick. And again, I know I played a long time ago, right? I was there at Virginia Tech 5 years, and those 5 years, we won 3 conference championships, and we averaged 10 wins a season. My last year at Tech, we won 9 games, finished ranked 18th in the country. So I preface that statement by saying I have the credibility to speak on winning. You look at what my cousin did, Mike, and even Marcus, winning games, 10 games, 9, 11 games, right? This last regime has not done anything except beat Tulane in a bowl game when Tulane had a mass exodus, including 8 starters and their starting quarterback. Right. And it was a monsoon that they played in, right? So we've learned that bowl games don't carry the same merit compared to back in the day. We also look at a team where if it's going to be a bunch of freshmen, sophomores, and some 2 deep juniors left, then so be it. I mean, at this point, even with the guys, if they had stayed, were they going to beat Miami and Florida State? No. I remember when my redshirt junior, we played Miami we may play them that year, and we played them the year before. And this is when they were put on probation. They were using guys like Santana Moss, who was on a track scholarship but playing football. They were limited in their scholarships. Well, when they came to Blacksburg on a cold November night, we only won that game 27-25. The following year in '98, we beat Miami on the road 27-20 in overtime. Now, that '98 team featured Adrian James, Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Nate Webster, Dan Morgan, but they were young. Ed Reed was on that team. A young Sean Taylor hadn't gotten there yet. But I can name and go on and on who they ended up having, right? With that being said, they still fought and they still played. We still only beat them that year, my redshirt junior, at home when they had some guys that you could tell were walk-ons and not Miami caliber starters. We only won 20.
Yeah.
We only won by 2 points, and that was because Pearson Prelo picked off a pass in the end zone that would have tied the game late in the fourth. I'm not trying to focus on my time and my era. I'm giving you guys and your listeners examples of Virginia Tech has lost its fight. All these guys making 600,000, 50,000, 80,000, they weren't fighting. They weren't playing hard. They weren't being coached up. So if they leave, so be it. Look, if we get blown out every game, everyone's going to know, okay, well, Virginia Tech, like that Maryland Bowl game, which we've never lose to Maryland when J.C. Price was the interim. He was coaching with guys that were not even supposed to be playing. Some of those guys were back from injury. They were red shirts. I mean, it was really, really, it was tough to watch. But everybody knew that Virginia Tech lost almost 27 guys that game to the portal or to sitting out for get ready for the NFL. So it is what it is, man. I mean, I know I sound mean, but I don't care.
No.
I know it's going to be about 17, 22 guys listed. You could tell last week there were guys sitting out. And I don't blame some of those guys. I know a handful of those guys. They're going to red shirt and get their money and go somewhere else. Here's my take on it. And I know I'm in my 40s, right? Here's my take on it. If I was a junior or a redshirt junior and I still had another year left, I'm not jumping. I'm going to get me some tape if I haven't been playing, because there are going to be a lot of guys that's going to be picked up. But to me, there's a little bit, a sense of pride I would have. But I'm different. I posted a picture yesterday. You're talking about a guy like myself that played the entire spring, including the spring game, with 2 broken hands. I didn't have surgery. I played. In the spring, I had my starting position solidified, but I still played. So that was a different time. We got guys that are now redshirting and sitting out for pinky bruises.
Yeah, no, you're right. And maybe that's what Tech ran into as well. The first time they had really dived into the NIL, and maybe you didn't have a coach who knew how to manage that and get maximum value. But you're right. I think what we saw last week with certain guys sitting out was a precursor to what we're going to see going forward. But you're right. Whoever stays, Philip Montgomery I think Philip Montgomery, DV, probably feels the same way you do. He probably is like, okay, let's go we'll roll with what we've got after Monday, right? We'll roll with what we got.
I don't know. I don't know Coach Montgomery. I've seen him from afar when he was the head coach at Tulsa, and I've seen him since he's arrived in Blacksburg. I think so far he's handled himself well. Again, this is going to be a season where if they win 4 games, that's going to be huge. Right now, he's auditioning for a job somewhere. So the truth of the matter is those coaches still have to coach. And the players left will play. And sometimes, oh gosh, I hate saying this, but it's the truth. In some cases, one of the biggest issues I had with Coach Pride, and a lot of guys like myself felt this way, is he was too loyal to a lot of guys that were underachieving on the field. Right. You would be like, why is almost like that scene from League of Their Own when Tom Hanks was like, you're still missing the cutoff, right?
Yes,
yes.
We've gone over that, haven't we? Yeah.
It's almost like you would sit at the screen or you would say, why are you not playing the other guy when he's more talented and younger and better? And he would just stay loyal. There are a lot of people who were critical of him that felt like he's too loyal to drones. Again, I'm not in the locker room. I root for Drones. I met his family. I want him to do well. I'm glad he played well last week. I know that was Wofford. The good thing for them is NC State, whoever's left playing, is not a great team. They're better than Virginia Tech. That's not a question. They're better than Tech.
They are.
But they're not a great team. So
they aren't.
They're not. I'm telling you, UVA should have beat them. Duke mollywopped them. Their defense is atrocious. I posted a video last week. I watched that game just to see. I've seen NC State play 3 times this year. They give up.
Me too. Yeah.
They give up chunk plays, and every year there's 2 teams, actually 3, that are always picked to do really well. That's Louisville, NC State, and Miami. Every year. Every year. Andy and those guys go down to the ACC media day, and somehow they walk away with, I like this NC State team. And Louisville's going to be tough, and Miami has been. I'm going to eat my own words, but Miami might be the real deal. But
I know.
you got to
Me
know,
too.
I've seen this so many times.
You have.
I've seen this for a long time because we are prisoners of the moment. We are premature in our predictions, and we don't understand how football is a weird but long and fast season, meaning a lot of things happen, injuries, surprises. I think Virginia Tech's mantra that going into the NC State game and their mission and vision for the rest of the season is to just fight. You know, you never know how the ball may bounce. Think about how many games Virginia Tech played against teams like Virginia Tech in previous years when they had good teams and they lost. Even going back to my era, where we lost at home to Miami of Ohio.
That's right.
Stuff like that. Virginia. So let's be the Miami of Ohio. Let's make it interesting. Empty the playbook. You know, have fun. You know, if you're down 9 in the second half, like, you know, do what you can do. Like, have fun. Nobody's gonna feel sorry for you though. This is a business.
No, I agree. I think it's well said, and we'll see what's left, and we'll see how it plays out. But I expect them to be very competitive as well on Saturday night. I really do. I don't know if it'll be a win or not, but I think they're going to be. I think they'll be there in the fourth quarter. I do.
I think offensively, Tech, because I know the O line. I don't know who from the O line is going to leave, but you know, I know they've been dinged up, but they got running backs. They got, you know, you got Coney, you got Pearson Prelo's son. I like the other guy, number 8. You got some good receivers. I saw a lot of young guys. Like, let's see what those guys got. Drones is going to ride it out. So that's offensively, I think Virginia Tech will be in a position to make plays. And again, you got NC State and you got Wake Forest at home. I think looking ahead, the ugliness may come in November. But by then, you're like, you know what? It's whatever. Because you got Florida State and Miami in November. And a quality and much improved UVA team. Although I like Tony Elliott. I like what they're doing there. But they have been a beneficiary of playing more Woffers than they have been playing more Miamis and Florida States.
Right.
I mean, that's scheduling. I mean, I said this on Twitter one time. I like Bronco Mendenhall. I liked him.
Yeah.
From UVA.
He's a good dude. Yeah.
And he's a good dude, class act, and he was a good coach.
Good coach.
I felt like Bronco when he said, give me all the inferior opponents I can take. And I know exactly why he said that. And people question his level of competition. And I knew what he meant. He was saying, basically, we are not, at the time when he was at Virginia, in a position to play these teams. That's kind of how I felt like with Virginia Tech. You know, I kept saying, man, you know, this schedule, it's you know, it's not the toughest, but are we really on the same level with some of these teams, just the way we've been performing? I wondered if our schedule was a bit too much. People say, well, what do you mean? ODU, South Carolina. You know, again, I just wonder if the guys understood the assignment when it came to competition. And one quick point, Rick, speaking of the coaching carousel, it's almost like watching a movie how this thing is going to play out, because I did some digging the other day, last weekend. South Carolina may not win but 3, maybe 2 more games. Have you seen their schedule?
Yeah, and they haven't been good. Yeah.
And I told you they weren't that good. And I love
Shane. I
told you. I said Virginia Tech can get a signature win while they were ranked 13, and we dropped the ball. We played scared offensively. That game was there for the taking, and we dropped the ball. If Pry wins that game, maybe we're talking about a 2-1 Virginia Tech team, and Pry's still here. But they played scared. And it's just crazy, though, how this stuff shapes out. Like, who knew?
It is.
You know, who knew this was going to happen? Like, so it's going to be interesting to see how this thing. I'm not advocating for Shane to be the coach at Tech. What I'm saying is, it's amazing how in college sports, one day you're the hero, the next day you're the villain.
No, you hit it right on the head. Think about it. They were number 13 in the country. If he loses Saturday night at home to Kentucky, it's going to start all over again like it did 2 years ago for him. And it's going to be a hot seat declaration immediately put on his. Yep.
Shane's my brother. I love Shane. Shane is my brother. Last year he was on a hot seat. He was. And this is big. You know, one thing I was asked, you know, by people, why don't I coach? You couldn't pay me enough to coach, because in today's era, where players can leave when they want, do what they want. You have to pay them before they show and prove. And then more than ever, unlike back in the day, you are only as good as not just your last season, your last game. So on one minute you're Coach Pride, you're in Blacksburg, you're throwing snowballs with the Corps Cadet, and everybody's happy, including me. I am still a Pride guy. I wanted him to win, but there were some decisions with coordinators and player personnel that didn't do him justice, and it really didn't benefit him. Now he's going to get paid, so I'm not feeling bad for him that much. He's getting paid. Well, after this call, I've got to go to work. So, I mean, he's chilling right now. But the truth of the matter, whether you're Pride or Shane, everybody, even Tony Elliott right now. I like Tony. I know Coach, I like him. But if they get blown out by Florida State, they lose in Louisville, they lose another one.
I know.
These same people are loving him will be like, he's got to go.
Just like that. Yeah. Just like that. Well, it's great stuff, brother. Listen, enjoy the game Saturday night. Who knows? Maybe if something great happens or something cool happens, maybe we'll go live again. I might go live again just for the heck of it. So you're always invited when I go live. Just to let you know.
I'm always there, man. Let me know. I just last message. I know we up against the clock. I just hope the players that's there. I may even tweet this. Just play, man. Keep fighting. You can't control the external factors around you, but you still are in a blessed position to play college football. And if I'm a backup that's been itching to play, I'm going to miss my brothers that go into the portal, but I am not about to sit here and not take advantage of an opportunity. That's 100%. Just the way it is. I'm going to play. I'm going to play. It's a beautiful 100%. Game, and you know what? I'm playing on the road against a sold-out crowd at NC State. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to go out there and knock somebody in the mouth.
Absolutely. That's what – exactly. 100%. 100%.
Yep. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a great rest of your Thursday and Friday. And who knows? I'll talk to you Saturday somehow. I know.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Take care. There you go. Great stuff from Dwight Vick. Thanks to everybody. Wow. That was a lot of fun today. It's always fun in here, especially with you, the best listening audience in radio / now YouTube. Thanks to Andy Bitter. Appreciate him altering his schedule. I mean, Marty Smith, Steve Ragsdale. The guy's a genius. Coach Rags is a genius. Did you hear all that? You're just sitting there envisioning what he's saying. I used to call those games and didn't have a clue where the damn ball was. And Dwight Vick. Man, that was fun. That was fun. That was great. Wayne, I'll answer it for you. Old Dominion's better than Liberty. Old Dominion will beat Liberty Saturday. Old Dominion will beat Liberty. Yeah. But Dwight, just telling he's right. If you don't want to be there, see ya. Bye. And you weren't that good anyway, right? I love it. All right. Thanks to everybody. Again, please subscribe, like, and share our videos. We need it. Obviously, it's free. Remember, all you subscribers, 500 plus now, strong. You get one person you know to subscribe. We'll be at 1,000 just for you know it. But tomorrow, Will Stewart. I know Mike Ashley and Jen are good. I think West Durham is good. We'll let you know on the Facebook page. Great show today. Thanks again to Andy, Marty, Coach Rags, and Dwight. Thanks for watching. Spread the word. If you missed it, I'll post the show up again on Facebook. Go back and find it on the Big Dog Sports Talk channel. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Finally Friday edition. Take care. Thanks for being with us.